Okay, we've already heard it. As above, so below. As below, so above. So explains the Hermetic principle of correspondence, the second law of the universe. I've already covered other laws of the universe, vibration, mentalism, and cause and effect. I sort of felt it was time for the law of correspondence. What I have come to realize is that these principles or laws don't function separately. They are all in effect all of the time, seamlessly working together in truly wondrous ways. So let's take a look at the law of correspondence today and see what it might have to teach us. Basically, this law states that there is correspondence between the different planes of existence: mental, physical, and spiritual. As above, so below, as below, so above. I'm not good with metaphor. As a kid, I thought the spiritual realm was up there in the sky, in heaven. And no one ever told me differently. And when I was first introduced to the concept of the law of correspondence, this thinking from my childhood came back to haunt me. For some reason, I couldn't make the connection and continued to wonder why what I thought or did here on the earth below affected the spirits in heaven above. It's funny how our early thinking shapes our lives until we find out about it and change it. So these principles are spiritual laws that are working in the whole universe, and they also pertain to our lives here on this planet. They aren't necessarily meant to propel us upward into spirituality. They're about how to make life easier down here. And as we work with the laws, that brings about a growth in spirituality. So these 7 laws are operating together all the time. They can be compared to gears in a well-oiled machine. And I have an illustration for you. So here's this little gadget. It's full of gears. If you turn a gear, all of them turn, and various things pop up. So all the gears work together all the time. And you can see the little items that we create by doing this. They pop up from time to time. Kind of fun, isn't it? So my most recent hobby is making these 3D wooden models. You can buy kits that include just about everything you need. And they've all been highly challenging, mostly in a good way. I love putting them together and painting them. They come as just raw wood, so all this is my painting. I've made an orrery, you know what that is? A lantern, a steampunk rabbit and a spaceship, a Halloween house, a Christmas villa, and so on. And many of them move in some way, often using music box mechanisms. And the lantern plays "You Light Up My Life." They do have a sense of humor. As I started to build these models, I began to realize that I had to develop a profoundly healthy sense of patience, patience, patience to survive the project. I'd been told once that my task in this lifetime was to develop patience, and here it was. This is not a hobby to rush through, because unless you stop and really think things through, you will likely have to go back and redo what you did wrong, even if you think you did it right. And this is certainly not a hobby if you are prone to frustration. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, Lyriel, what does this have to do with the law of correspondence? Well, you've undoubtedly heard that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But the teacher isn't always who or what you expect it to be. I was astonished to find that my teacher proved to be a model aquarium. So I have brought the aquarium along, my teacher along, and I would like to introduce you to my aquarium teacher, which has taught me in no uncertain terms just how the law of correspondence works. link here. I hope you can all see it.
Not on Zoom. They can't see it on Zoom. Can you put it in front of the podium for a moment?
I can do that. People on Zoom, here it is. Now, these models, as you can imagine, require everything to be aligned perfectly. Metaphor, with no margin of error. And when everything is perfectly aligned, surprise, everything works. You know, I had seen a picture of this aquarium online and loved everything about it. And later I happened to find it on sale, yay, and ordered it. I opened it with excitement and looked forward to what would surely be a stunning model. The pieces come on plywood boards that had been cut by lasers. We have these boards, they're already empty, of course. The pieces are gone, they've been used in the construction. So see? And these pieces have slots and tabs that fit together so you don't use glue at all. It's so satisfying to hear that snap that tells you you have successfully attached the piece. Now, this particular kit had 8 of these boards, 8, most of them full of small parts. That's part of the journey, though. So I took a deep breath as I contemplated my journey ahead. Very, very thrilled to be able to do this. You know, it's easy to break pieces in this, and I had broken pieces before in other projects. And as I took the first piece out of the board, I remember thinking, wow, I hope I don't break any parts this time. It's not hard to fix breakage, but it requires time for the glue to dry and strengthen, and then it's as good as new. I'm usually very careful about pushing the pieces out, but this time, the first piece broke. I couldn't believe it and said to myself, I hope this isn't a harbinger of things to come. And it was close enough to my thought of not breaking a piece that I made the connection between thought and action. Well, it was a harbinger of things to come, because as I progressed, I became somewhat focused on the difficulties plaguing the construction. And the difficulties came one after the other after the other. I became more and more frustrated, and that brought more what? Frustration. Frustration heaped upon frustration. When I needed help, I emailed the manufacturer and posted on Facebook. The manufacturer of this model in Ukraine was worse than useless, and their help group shut down every week for a 3-day weekend, not even allowing posts to other members. Patience. When I emailed them directly, they answered something I didn't even ask. And their instructions were only barely helpful, and it took a great deal of guessing what needed to happen without knowing how it was all supposed to work together in the end. So what do? You know, I was left looking up all references to the models, even referring to reviews to see if someone had a solution or an insight. I continued to be met with stumbles and frustrations all along the way, and many more broken pieces. I was so happy to reach the end, and then what? The very last piece broke. Not surprisingly, all these stumbles made their way into my life outside of making the model. This started happening. I was not sleeping well, waking up frequently during the night or not even falling asleep. I developed sinusitis, which is an indication to me of not breathing in joy or life. I became short-tempered and irritable with things that don't usually bother me. And I started moving away from my usual state of always being present in other ways. For example, one day I needed to use my laundry sink, and I removed the hose from the clothing washer to the drain, and neglected to reattach it, only to run a wash later that ended up washing my laundry room with 2 tubfuls of water. You know, my entire life was conspiring to frustrate me. But through this experience, here's what my aquarium teacher taught me. Don't rush anything, because rushing causes accidents. Don't take shortcuts, because it is not necessarily the best way. Don't jump ahead, because there is a purpose to order. Do everything in order, because that way you won't have to go back and fix so many things. Don't force anything, you might do more damage. And if you can't find the solution right away, step away. Come back the next day, and somehow, almost magically, everything becomes clear, fits, and works together. Best of all, I began to realize how wonderful it is to work with wood. It is a living entity, it truly is, and it wants to cooperate. By gently and patiently working with it, it eventually goes where it should and stays there happily. So what all this means is that your outer world will always be a reflection of your inner world. What happens around us is a direct reflection of what is happening within us, and our internal environments determine our external environments. So we've heard it said, as above, so below, as below, so above, or as we think, so we are, and even better, as within, so without. Thank you, Anne Marie. We human beings seem to be concerned with worst possible outcome for things. Why do we do that? Our things are only going to get worse. How can I afford this? I don't have any money to pay for this or that. This all springs from a basic emotion of fear. Why are we so fearful about what's going to happen? And with that law of correspondence constantly in motion, whatever we are currently living is what creates our current reality. So if you are worried about money, lack and scarcity of money is what you are creating in your life. Now, there are some pitfalls to interacting with the law. The word want. In the language of the universe, that word means lack. So if you say, I want, the universe interprets it to mean you are focused on not having it. So it responds by your continuing to not have it. That's a very slippery slope and is the bane of people who are trying to manifest things. It's so easy to say, I want, and that just means, why do you want it? Because you don't have it. So you don't have it, so you don't get any more of it. It just continues. Vicious circle. So what we are really doing through the law is telling the universe how to communicate with us. If you are angry, the universe responds with anger and gives you even more to be angry about. If you are happy, that's what it gives back to you. Why, when you are rushing to get somewhere, do you hit red lights or heavy traffic? The universe is always listening and feeling. It's kind of creepy. And in a way, it's also why, when you are frustrated or otherwise out of sorts, the universe gives you more red lights, telling you, slow down. Actually, feelings are more important than words. Feelings are a vibration, and the law of correspondence says that the universe communicates with vibration, and that's why it's important to send out the vibrations you desire in your feelings as well as words. So, watch your language and your inner feelings. Every word has power. Feelings especially have power. It's what you are vibrating. This law is why I love the most benevolent outcome technique that I have spoken about. I have one I say daily that puts everything in alignment first thing in the morning. It speaks to the universe the way the universe understands. I know some of you have tried MBOs, as we call them, with remarkable results. If you need a primer on the technique, please see my Interfaith video called Collaborating with the Flow. And in fact, let's say that MBO together now. Repeat after me. I ask any and all beings for a most benevolent outcome for me today, wherever I go, whatever I do, whoever I meet or talk to, that all my interactions are harmonious, and with results even better, than could be expected or hoped for. Thank you. So I thank my aquarium teacher and will now show you the end result of all this. After this nightmare ended, the next project went smoothly and easily and was an absolute joy. I no longer have sinusitis. I'm sleeping soundly, and am no longer bothered by small things. I think the aquarium did its job well. Let me start it up for you. It moves. I know, you can stand up if you like. It winds up on a spring and runs for about 20 seconds and then just stops. Thank you.